Okay, I'm tired of seeing this woman in every single video game for the past decade. If you don't know who I'm talking about Deborah Wilson. She's an actress and comedian from Mad TV who's a hilarious person, a great talent, but she's in every single video game. You see her in Kill the Justice League as Amanda Waller. You see her as a Jedi in Jedi Survivor. She's a soldier in Call of Duty. She's a revolutionary in Wolfenstein 2, and she's a spiritual leader in Destiny. She's every single type of character you can imagine, and it's getting boring. And I think this is showing the problem with Hollywood invading the video game space, turning every AAA game into some big budget cinematic flick than rather a great game. And I think that's what people are seeking from AAA games: great gaming experiences and not big budget cinematic flicks where you're not actually playing as a character. And I think this is showing some of the faults of Hollywood invading video game space, and where actors playing these roles looking exactly the same and breaking the immersion of these video games and making the games about actors rather than the gameplay itself, and removing the focus from the actual players and the customer base. And I think that is a fault of the video game industry, and we're seeing results bear out with multiple AAA games flopping on the market. She is part of multiple flops, including Kill the Justice League, Wolfenstein 2, and I can see that continuing on in the future with the focus on just getting these expensive actors, or just not even expensive actors, trying to actually mold these actors into the video game when that really doesn't matter. You just need to have a face and the talent behind the voice, and she is a talent behind the voice, but I'm tired of seeing her model. And I think that is the thing that we need to change the focus from in the video game space, where we're focusing on the presence and the look of the actor, when this is a space where we have technology where we can become anything in these multiple worlds. So we don't need to see the same faces over and over again in multiple video games. And this is just Hollywood invading it, trying to conform the video game world into its own liking. And I think that's why we keep seeing Deborah Wilson in everything. I think besides that, she has a good talent for voices, so I think that is another thing, but I don't think we need to see her face everywhere. And I think that is the biggest fault of taking that Hollywood mindset to video games, where people are playing multiple video games. They see this woman in every single version of a fantasy world, and they're just thinking, I don't really want to see a Hollywood movie. I'm trying to get into the game. And I know people are going to say Hollywood is like that. You see multiple actors, but this is not Hollywood. This is video games, where I'm interacting with the space around me, and I don't want to see the same woman everywhere in every single game being everything. I'm trying to get into this space of this video game, this different world. And I think that is the immersion of video games, where you're interacting with the world and you break away from the actors themselves. You can have the voices here or there, but we can just break away from their likeness and their overall look. And I think that is the main thing people want to see. If it'll be fine if she was in one or two games with her face, but she's just everywhere. And I think whenever I see her, I'm like, another game with her in it, and it's just immersion breaking, at least for me. And I think that is the thing that we ultimately get with her appearing in these games, where it devalues the game to a certain extent, at least for me, where I'm thinking, all right, how many times are they going to be so lazy where they just don't want to scan a new actor's face, just make a new face out of thin air? You have all the technology. It just feels like the perfect version of laziness with these game developers, where they're constantly using the similar face model over and over again. And it just shows the lazy development process that is developing in AAA games, where they're spending so much money, but they're becoming even lazier in the overall process, where they're just using the same face actress for every single game they can imagine. And I know people think this is a part of the diversity, equity, inclusion. I think that may be a part of it as well, although I think she's always been a talented actress, so I push that to the side. But I know that is a part of the thought process as well. She fits all the checkbox for that process as well, but I think she's kind of pushed by her talent for the main purpose. It may have slight influence, and I think that's a problem with the DEI sort of thing, where we have a talented actress like Deborah Wilson, but we're questioning why she's everywhere. It must be because of this DEI influence. And I think it marks down her own talents for actually achieving such a desirable role, where people actually like her talent, her voice, and probably the way she works with the overall voice actors and just the production staff while she's voicing these characters. I'm thinking she's probably funny and entertaining and engaging, and that's why she's getting so much roles. I think that's the main part that we're seeing and why she's being pushed in these roles. But my problem is, you don't have to have her look like that all the time. You can just have her a different face, different overall likeness. We don't have to see the same face over and over again. And I think that is my problem with the overall landscape landscape of Hollywood where you can't even be a different person in an anime anymore. You have to look like the anime character right now, and they're pushing that ideology where you have to look like the exact video game character. You can't have any variations at all. You have to be black if you're playing a black character. I'm like, no, you can be any race, any skin color, any gender. You just need to be able to make a convincing voice. And I think that is the lost art now in Hollywood, where they're breaking people into subcategories where they're going to limit their access to actual roles. And I'm thinking that is just a hindrance to the overall development of an actor, where they only can play a black actor, they only can play an LGBTQ actor, they can only play a white actor, you can only play an Asian or Spanish actor. I'm like, no, you can play a variety of voices as long as you have the talent. I think, of course, Deborah Wilson has a talent. I would like to see her be a white woman one time, be an Asian woman, be someone else. Just don't be the bald black woman in the game, or the black woman that just looks like the same actor from Mad TV, where I'm thinking, oh, what is this Mad TV girl doing here? And I think that is my frustration. Of course, she has different hairstyles in multiple games, but it's just, for me, it's just a immersion breaking experience to see her in everything. And people are going to complain and say, what are you talking about? We see this sort of face model with Hideo Kojima in Death Stranding, where he has the models and the actors look exactly the same, but they're in one game. They're not in multiple games. I think that's the main thing, where I'm thinking, okay, these actors are in one game. I can handle it once or twice. But if it's 10 or 15 times where I'm seeing the same actor, I'm like, okay, man, change their face. You don't have to look like this. We can have a different look and feel to the character. And that's where I'm just tired of seeing Hollywood invading this space and changing it into a way where I'm just not really excited to see what they do with these actors, these face models. It's kind of getting boring, and it harkens back to the time, I think, before they had this technology where they can face model, scan everything. I rather prefer where they just make something up, so you have a unique character that just doesn't exist in the world. I think that Hollywood just invading this space is just nothing good for the video game sphere, and I think that's why we're seeing all this focus on DEI, ESG, this focus on diversity quotas and gender politics, in kind of entering the space of video games so viciously, because it's following this Hollywood trend. And I think detaching from that will save a lot of video game studios. And if you haven't heard, a lot of video game studios are going out of business because of their overall dedication to this Hollywood philosophy. You saw this with Volition and Rocksteady. You see this with multiple other studios that dedicated themselves to this ideology. And we kind of have this video game apocalypse where multiple video games are falling apart and going bankrupt and shuttering their doors. We just had Microsoft shut down the doors of multiple studios, and of course fired a large amount of staff at Blizzard. And of course that's to be expected at mergers, but I'm thinking this is just a sign of the industry falling in on itself with these expensive budgets, with terrible gameplay for these AAA games coming out and not attracting the people that actually play games, and only pleasing the critics that don't play games. And I think this part is something that is bearing fruit in the industry, and I think it's what we're seeing with the casting of actors in the same roles incessantly. Although I like Deborah Wilson, I'm just tired of seeing her face for the most part, and I think that's my biggest complaint, and hopefully they change that. But you tell me, what do you think about the situation? Are you tired of seeing Deborah Wilson? Even though I like her talent, I think she's funny, I think her voice acting is good, I just don't want to see her face anymore. Let her be a white woman, please. Let her be someone else so she can just have fun acting as a different character. Let her be Asian, let her be white, let her be Spanish. I just don't want to see this version of her again. But you leave your comments, tell me what you think about the situation. Like, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.